Imagine this. A child, Temujin, born under blood-red sky, out there on the windswept Mongolian steppe. But this isn't just any child. No, this kid becomes Genghis Khan, the architect, really, of the largest land empire the world has ever seen. It's just an incredible story, isn't it? Full of raw survival, power, and this ambition so focused, it didn't just reshape continents. It basically rewrote the rules, warfare, government, the whole thing. So in this deep dive, we're aiming to give you a pretty direct path to understanding one of history's most fascinating and complex figures. We've gone through our sources, pulled out the most impactful bits, the real nuggets of knowledge, and yeah, we're ready to share those surprising facts and maybe just enough humor to keep you totally hooked. Our mission, really, is to help you quickly grasp what's truly important, what's pivotal about this incredible historical force. Okay, so let's unpack this. Our journey starts with Temujin's birth, right? Around 1162, near the Yan'an River, modern-day Mongolia. And the sources make it absolutely clear. Life on the Mongolian steppe, well, it was anything but easy, right?
Oh, absolutely brutal. Constant tribal warfare, those unforgiving winters, endless rivalries, just relentless.
And then tragedy hits early. His father, Yasugai, who was a respected chieftain, he gets poisoned by a rival clan. And this isn't just a personal loss. I mean, it leads to Temujin's entire family being cast out, completely abandoned, left to survive alone in the wilderness.
Yeah, just think about that. Out there on their own.
And it's there, in that hardship, that he learns, to hunt, to fight, and crucially to lead under the most extreme conditions imaginable.
And it's really compelling, isn't it, how that early struggle wasn't just about personal survival. It was a crucible. It forged something more profound in him. It definitely seems to have instilled this ruthlessness, a resilience, and just an absolute determination to not just rise, but to completely transcend his circumstances, which, prompts an important question. How fundamentally did this harsh, almost primal beginning, how did it shape his future leadership style? It feels like it bred a unique kind of leader.
That's a really crucial point. It almost seems like the sheer brutality of his early life, the constant threat of betrayal, abandonment, it instilled this relentless pragmatism in him, and maybe even a deep-seated distrust of traditional systems, like noble birth. Wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah.
It feels like the steppe itself kind of shaped his unique approach to loyalty and power.
Yeah.
Made him question everything.
Precisely. And that's exactly where we see him evolve, right? From this outcast survivor into a master strategist of alliances. From those really desperate origins, Temujin didn't just scrape by, he started strategically uniting. That struggle for existence really became the foundation for how he built something entirely new. So how exactly did this outcast start forging alliances and, pulling together these disparate tribes?
Yeah, that's what I find truly astonishing. How he makes that leap from just one outcast kid to a unifier of entire tribes. That jump from survival to, state building.
Yep.
It's huge. He formed alliances through shrewd diplomacy, definitely sheer charisma, and yeah, let's be honest, brutal warfare too. But often he'd absorb enemies rather than just destroying them completely, which is interesting in itself.
Strategic.
But here's the really profound innovation, I think. He believed fiercely in meritocracy, promoting men based purely on skill and proven loyalty, not their family name.
Which was totally radical then.
Absolute radical, in a world rigidly defined by lineage. So by 1206, after he's defeated all the rival Mongol clans, he's not just a chieftain anymore. He's given the title Genghis Khan, universal ruler.
Universal ruler. Wow.
And the Mongol tribes, once totally fractured, are now unified under his command. And it seems like the entire world is suddenly in his sights.
The insight there about meritocracy, it wasn't just that it was fair in our modern sense. It was ruthless pragmatism. It let him integrate defeated enemies into his ranks. Think about that. Turning former foes into fiercely loyal commanders based purely on skill.
Right, competence over connections.
Exactly. It was a radical departure that just massively amplified his empire's talent pool and its reach. It really makes you wonder, how much did that singular focus on skill over lineage contribute to the Mongols' unprecedented success, especially early on?
That's a powerful observation. It sounds like he wasn't just looking for loyalty, he was looking for competence, pure and simple, no matter where it came from. And that pragmatic approach wasn't just limited to how he picked his leaders, was it? The sources suggest he fundamentally transformed warfare itself. So what were the key innovations? What allowed his forces to become so dominant on the battlefield?
Well, a really compelling aspect of his genius is that he didn't just win battles, he actually changed the strategic landscape of his entire era. First off, organization. He structured his army into these meticulously disciplined units, tens, hundreds, thousands, an organizational masterclass, really.
Decimal system based.
Yeah, essentially. And his cavalry, well, it was truly unmatched, incredibly fast, devastatingly effective, able to strike deep into enemy territory with just unprecedented speed.
Speed and surprise.
Absolutely. And he famously used psychological warfare, spreading terror to basically force cities to surrender without a fight. And those who resisted, they were often completely wiped out, a chilling warning to others.
Brutal efficiency.
And he embraced technology, too. He leveraged Chinese engineers, captured ones often, to build powerful siege weapons, stuff needed to break down fortified city walls. His campaigns weren't just about grabbing land. They were about fundamentally revolutionizing power itself.
It's incredible, isn't it, how strategically he used terror, not just as like a byproduct of war, but as a deliberate weapon. And, okay, so once these transformed armies were unleashed, the scale of his ambition was just staggering. Where did they go? How far did these Mongol forces reach?
Well, looking at the bigger picture, the sheer logistical feat of these campaigns, it's almost incomprehensible, even today. Their initial campaigns started in northern China against the powerful Jin dynasty. They pushed relentlessly south.
Okay.
Then they pivoted westward to the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. And there, well, Genghis unleashed total war after their ruler made the fatal mistake of killing Mongol envoys. Big mistake.
You don't kill the envoy.
You really don't.
Huh.
They stormed major cities, places like Samarkand, Bukhara, leaving entire populations just devastated, utterly. His army marched through Persia into the Caucasus and even reached the edges of Eastern Europe.
Just think of the distances.
Exactly. No one had ever moved armies across such vast distances with that kind of speed and coordination before. It was unheard of. So by the 1220s, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the Caspian Sea, the largest contiguous land empire the world had ever seen. It's a testament to this unparalleled mastery of movement supply across incredibly diverse terrains.
It's mind-boggling. But while the sheer scale of the conquest is, undeniable, the sources do push us to look beyond the battlefield. What deeper, maybe often overlooked, systems did this destroyer also build? How did that shape his legacy beyond just military might?
Yeah, and what truly stands out about this period is how these systems he created actually built a foundation for governance, for connectivity across this huge, diverse empire. It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it, for such a conquering force?
It really is.
He was also a visionary ruler. He created a written legal code, the Yasa, which powerfully emphasized order, loyalty, and a kind of justice throughout his domains. He established protected trade routes, championed merchants, really promoted the famous Silk Road, allowing goods, ideas, cultures to flow freely across continents.
Facilitating exchange on a massive scale.
And consider this. He practiced remarkable religious tolerance for his time, allowing Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, shamans, all to worship freely within his empire.
That's quite progressive for the 13th century.
Extremely. And he even built this ingenious postal system, the Yam, basically relay stations with mounted couriers. They could deliver messages across thousands of miles in just days.
The Mongol Pony Express.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's almost comical, right? Here's a guy conquering half the known world, and he's thinking, you know what this empire really needs? A super efficient mail delivery service.
Priorities.
But it shows his thinking, doesn't it? The sources really highlight him as, quote, a man of two sides, a destroyer of cities, but also a builder of sophisticated systems.
That's fascinating. So, okay, how did these administrative things, these social innovations, how do they actually contribute to relative stability, maybe even prosperity within his empire, especially after the initial conquests were done, despite all the destruction that came first?
Right.
It really makes you consider the surprising depth of his impact, doesn't it, beyond just the military stuff?
It really does. I mean, it speaks to a profound understanding of how to maintain power, not just seize it, which is often the harder part.
True.
Of course, every great story has an end, but for Genghis Khan, even his death is kind of shrouded in this intriguing mystery. What do the sources tell us about his final moments and what happened next?
Yeah, it's one of history's great enduring mysteries, isn't it? He died in 1227 during a campaign against the Tangut Kingdom in western China. But the exact cause, well, it's still debated. Some sources say he fell off his horse. Others say wounded in battle, maybe even assassinated. We just don't know for sure.
Still a mystery.
And to this day, his burial site remains unknown, hidden deliberately, in secrecy, to preserve its sanctity, presumably. But here's the crucial insight, I think. His death did not stop the empire's momentum.
Oh.
Not at all. His sons, his grandsons, especially Kublai Khan, later on they continued the expansion relentlessly. So at its height, the Mongol Empire stretched from Eastern Europe all the way to the Sea of Japan, covering over, 24 million square kilometers?
This is a vast, unimaginable scale.
The largest land empire in human history. All started by that one boy, Temujin, from the steppe.
And if we zoom out, the really profound significance here is that the empire didn't just endure after his death, it actually expanded. That's a powerful testament, isn't it, to the robustness of the systems he'd established, the unified vision he'd created.
Absolutely.
It demonstrates the true strength of his foundational work. It proves his leadership went far, far beyond just his personal presence on the battlefield.
So ultimately then, how does this incredible, multifaceted story, how does it shape our understanding of Genghis Khan today? Because the sources really suggest his legacy is incredibly complicated. It's this paradox, right? Creation and destruction all wrapped up in one figure.
Yeah, and that raises the important question. How do we reconcile these two, extremely different perspectives of his legacy? It's tough. To some, he's undeniably a brutal warlord, responsible for millions of deaths, leaving cities in ashes, culture shattered. You can't ignore that devastation.
No, definitely not.
Yet to others, he's seen as a genius leader. Someone who forged unity out of chaos, fostered trade, and brought this relative peace, the Pax Mongolica, across vast lands. His empire connected East and West in ways that hadn't happened before, laying the groundwork really for globalization centuries before the modern world even conceived of the term.
Setting the stage.
And here's a truly remarkable fact, almost unbelievable. Genetic studies suggest that over 16 million men alive today carry DNA linked back to Genghis Khan.
16 million.
Yeah, it's a stunning testament to his astonishing reach and, his lasting biological impact, if nothing else. His name still echoes through history, doesn't it? As one of the greatest and certainly one of the most feared leaders the world has ever known.
What's fascinating there is just how his impact is still felt. Not just in history books, but literally in the genetic tapestry of humanity today. It just underscores the profound, the enduring reach of one man's life. So we've taken quite a journey, haven't we? Through the life, the conquests, and those often overlooked administrative innovations of Genghis Khan. Hopefully you've now gained a deep understanding of his truly complex and an enduring legacy. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given Genghis Khan's dual legacy, both destroyer and builder, and his, visionary approach to connecting disparate lands through trade and communication, how much of our modern interconnected world, with its global trade routes, its cultural exchanges, how much does it owe in unacknowledged debt, perhaps, to the foundations he laid, even though they were laid through brutal means? Consider how his actions, maybe unintentionally, set forces in motion that eventually led to a more globalized world, centuries before we even had a word for it. Something to think about.